to Monica, if or fine, to provide some introductory notes.
Good morning, you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good morning for us, afternoon and evening for everyone else. I'm Monica Brown. I'm stepping in for Victoria Tunstall as WEOG Regional Focal Point on behalf of Canada. Our region has many representatives from many time zones, so I'd like to welcome all of our members from around the world and thank you for participating in this briefing. This briefing is the outcome of the discussion held at the ICCM5 Bureau meeting that took place in Geneva on the 22nd and 23rd of June, and it supports preparations for the resumed fourth meeting of the intersessional process, considering the strategic approach to be held in Bonn in Germany towards the end of September. The main objectives of this briefing are to clarify the process for preparing the IP co-chairs non-papers, to facilitate the achievement of consensus at the resumed fourth meeting, and to give you an opportunity to indicate outstanding sticking points that you may have. Similar briefings are being organized for each of the 5 UN regions, and are open to all stakeholders. After we hear from the IP co-chairs, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. Please note that the meeting will be recorded. And I would like to thank our IP co-chairs, Ms. Judith Torres from Uruguay and Ms. Kay Williams from the United Kingdom, for giving their time to us today to brief us on these important next steps. And without further delay, I will give them the floor. Over to you, Judith and Kay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. I'm delighted to be here, and good day to you all. Judith, did you want to say hi too?
Now it's easier for me this way. Thank you, Kay. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in this briefing. Thank you.
Thank you. As Monica has said, I think the objectives of the briefing are really to clarify the way forward that Judith and I have been considering since Nairobi, when we've been looking at the output of that particular meeting, IP 4.2. And also to give you an opportunity to ask questions about the process, which is a new process moving forward, and to give as much clarity as possible so that you can ask questions of us if you're not certain on the way ahead. Next slide, please. As Monica mentioned, Judith and I attended the Bureau meeting held in June. And after consideration of looking at the consolidated document, we're concerned that there are parts of the document that still need considerable amount of work to even attempt to clean the text. Judith and I also found that there were parts of the document we didn't understand anymore because the language had become so convoluted that the policy intent had been lost. And as a result, we believed that the only way that we could take forward progress in the limited time that we have available would be to draft, together with the co-facilitators, a couple of focused non-papers for consideration at IP 4.3 to expedite the process when we're there, and hopefully gain a consensus agreement document at the end of IP 4.3 to be translated to go into ICCM5. So together with the Bureau, we agreed that we would produce some non-papers that are very focused on the areas that we believed required the most work. And the intention is that after drafting those, we will publish them a full 6 weeks ahead of ICCM5 and IP 4.3, so that everyone is fully aware of what we believe may allow us to achieve consensus moving forward. The non-papers will be based on the IP 4.2 consolidated document, and the latter, that document, does remain the basis of discussions at the resumed IP 4.3 meeting. So they will not replace it. The IP 4.2 document remains the basis for negotiation at IP 4.3. So why are Judith and I doing this? I think this was the only way we thought that we would be able to clean up the document within the time that we had available to allow for it to be translated into 6 languages at the start of ICCM 5. So our aim is not to bring substantive changes to the original intent of the text, but really to look closely at removing repetition where necessary, and I think specifically with reference to the finance narrative, streamline that narrative. Start looking at the whole consolidated document and resolution text as a package of recommendations to ICCM 5 and try to determine where things have been highlighted many times in the text, try to determine where the most impact for those issues could lie. And also finally take a step back and see, after 7 years of negotiation, will what we are developing achieve the strategic objectives and the vision that we're setting out for ourselves, which ultimately is for a future that is free from chemical and waste harm. The aim of the non-papers is to facilitate the achievement of consensus. It aims to provide a clearer and concise understanding of the context and refining existing text for comprehension and effectiveness. We, of course, are in your hands as to what to do with that text. And if you don't like it, you can rip it up. But that's the intention of what we're doing in terms of putting these non-papers, developing them, and making them available 6 weeks ahead of the meeting. So Judith and I are holding now a number of virtual briefings across all regions and open to all stakeholders. The non-papers will be published around the 11th of August to give plenty of time for people to consider them. In early September, we hope to repeat this exercise to present the rationale behind the non-papers and just to hear your views as to whether some of the options are workable or whether you dislike them intensely. And I think then in the 21st and 22nd of September, we have the opportunity for a large number of regional meetings to be held near Bonn in Germany. And I'm not sure whether WEOG will be one of those regions, but certainly there will be face-to-face meetings where we are hoping there can be further discussion ahead of IP 4.3 so that when we get to IP 4.3, we are working at pace to enable a consensus document to be developed. Next slide, please. So with that, this is really a forum for you to ask Judith and I any questions about the approach that we wish to take forward and how the non-papers intend to be developed and used. So I'd really like to open the floor for you to pose those questions. Thank you. Well, that's good. I don't see any. I obviously was extremely clear. Susan, please.
Thanks so much, Kay. Just when you do these non-papers, are you going to like confer with stakeholders because well, there are some still bracketed text where stakeholders have shown special interest, or there are, I don't know, groups of stakeholders with a specific knowledge or experience? Are you going to, or how is it done practically? Just, yeah.
Thank you for the question. One of the reasons that we'd like to work closely with the co-facilitators is that the co-facilitators have a very good understanding of the discussions that have been happening, certainly in the very IP 4.1, IP 4.2, and so can provide a lot of the background and a lot of the understanding of the different stakeholders in the room. So with that, I think our intent is not really to reach out to individual stakeholders. We may stress test at a few points if we're not exactly clear, but the intent is to really work closely with the co-facilitators, the Secretariat, and I think our knowledge. Judith and I have quite a good knowledge of some of the issues and what different stakeholder communities care about. Conversation is always important, but we're also very time constrained at the moment. And I think we will be doing just our best efforts with the information and knowledge that we already have. Judith, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I think the intention of our non-papers is really to keep balance and the sense of policy around the different set of brackets. We are trying to deliver some text that will help people to advance their discussions. But as you said during the presentation, the consolidated text that came out of Nairobi is the negotiation text. This exercise is only to be clear if there is a possibility to advance these paragraphs that has too many brackets and in a way try to reach consensus around some of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Ellie, please, you have the floor.
Hopefully you can hear me. Hi Kay, hi Judith. Thank you very much for the presentation. I always feel very cheeky asking these questions of you, but one thing I wanted to check, you mentioned, Kay, in your sort of overview that one of the things you'll be doing is sort of looking through the whole document, looking through the whole package and sort of thinking back and kind of doing a bit of a assessment, if you like, of how it brings us towards our objectives and that overall aim. I guess if you sort of do that assessment and you go, actually, there's things missing here, or we don't think it is quite hitting the mark, what sort of process would you go through, I guess, if there were things you wanted to bring to the table at that point? Because I know you're not aiming to add in additional substance. So how would you balance that, I guess?
No, thank you. Thank you for the question. I think one of the challenges of the process to date has been that it's happened over a very long period of time.
Yeah.
And it has meant that some ideas, which are very good ideas, have come in at quite a late stage, and there's been a lot of ongoing work that has been quite challenging to incorporate into the consolidated document. And we continue to have some of those ideas, although we have been quite firm that we don't anticipate any new CRPs or INF documents for IP 4.3. But we have had proposals that we need to consider, and I think it is going to be hard to understand where those gaps are, but we're very conscious that new concepts are going to be very challenging to incorporate. But we know that the ICCA / Iran proposal, the work has been done on that, and that's made a bit of progress. We know that there have been some IOMC workshops, and they were looking specifically at appropriate language, working with the investment community on one of the targets. So I think you may be seeing some of of the language to fill gaps which speak more meaningfully to particular stakeholder communities coming through in the non-paper where we can.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
Can't see. You're all very quiet. I'm not sure whether to be worried or relaxed. Ah, see, Reggie. Reggie, would you like to take the floor, please?
Hi, Kay. Hi, Judith. I cannot open my camera. Sorry for that. Johanna from WCF. I have one question regarding the format you will present this non-paper. Is it? I remember that we had this publication once when we after the virtual working groups when you made the changes from the virtual groups to the text which was what it was based on. Do you intend also to make kind of columns that the changes really can clearly be seen from our side, or what is the idea about that?
Judith and I are still drafting the papers, so they're not in a finished form at all. Realistically, we will not have the time to do a process that we did in Budapest, where we were doing columns and looking at two text. I mean, I think that's a risk with the non-papers, but we don't believe that we can do it that way because we only have the 2 days. So I think we are considering how to present the non-papers and also how to use them, because in some ways the reason for focusing on those 2 specific parts, I think the targets and the framework and the financial part, the reasons are very different in terms of selecting those 2 and to make additional progress. And therefore the handling of how we use the non-papers also may be different. Therefore, I can't say at this stage that we will be going through a process of putting 2 texts up on the screen. We haven't come to any consideration or final decision on that, but I certainly know we won't be able to go through a process like we did in Budapest because of time. And we will be thinking carefully how best that we as a community can use these non-papers to facilitate consensus.
Okay, thank you.
Reggie, I think you had your hand up as well, please.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, Kay. Hi, Judith. Hello, colleagues. Good to see you, everybody, and here to you. Thank you very much, first of all, for this briefing. Good to know how you would like to proceed well with your preparations for IP 4.3, well, and of course ICCM 5 itself. First of all, what is still not clear to me is indeed the status of the consolidated text. You mentioned and you called it that is still the basis for the negotiations, but in the meantime you are also working, elaborating this non-paper, which is indeed, as you mentioned, based also on this consolidated text. So that brings me to the question about timing, because I understood that also from former briefings that your intention is to have only plenary sessions as a principle, to say so, to discuss the document in plenary sessions. But one observation in that respect, if you start with the consolidated text as the basis for these discussions, everybody knows that there is something behind. There's something else in your pocket. This non-paper document. What about the timing of submitting that document? I can imagine if people know in advance, and they do know, that there is another document on the table, not yet on the table, but at least in the pocket, people will wait for it, probably, and won't give in or will be willing to lift square brackets before, they know, okay, we can make a result, we can do the deal based on the consolidated text, but that will be very unrealistic, if I may say so. So everybody will wait for you to table the co-chair's non-paper. So what are your ideas about that? Will you wait for 24 hours, half a day, 10 minutes, or just say, let's start immediately with the non-papers? Because then at least you would have sufficient time to continue the work and hopefully finalize your work. So that was my feeling and my observation on how to proceed. Thank you. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Reggie. And I think I just need to clarify some misunderstandings, that just so that everybody knows, in terms of the running of the meeting, that's still very open. Judith and I know that we need to put some things through plenary and get agreement because, for example, the Friends of the Co-Chair work was in a smaller group, and we know there's been a call from one of the regions that has to go to plenary quickly to hopefully get at least some discussion there. But you're quite right. We've got a challenge in how we do handle IP 4.3. Part of the challenge is that we have small delegations and we do have constraints in terms of the running of multiple groups at the same time. That does not preclude, because there's still quite a lot of text that does need to be cleaned, that there won't be a thematic group to look at things like still institutional arrangements, finishing off some of the work maybe in regards to the implementation programs, etc., etc. I think you will find that Judith and I will be trying to work at pace, work closely with the heads of particular communities, asking those areas and those communities that disagree with each other to come up with a way forward. So it won't always be ourselves that can come up with a way forward. If participants, you come up with a way forward, that is warmly welcome so that we can get this consensus agreement. So I'd like to say it's still open as to how Judith and I precisely are going to run IP 4.2. We have not yet finished drafting these documents, and I think it's really difficult until we have seen some of the final products to know how to work with them. But I want you to be assured we've made the commitment that the clarity, the consolidated text from IP 4.2 is the basis. We will start from there, and I think the approach that we'll take, we're still under review. But Judith, I see you want to come in.
Yes, one thing that I want to add to Kay's comments is that we are elaborating these non-papers, and these non-papers will be well in advance of IP 4.3 for everyone to see what's in there. It's not something that is in our pockets and will come in as a surprise during the IP 4.3 first, second, third, and the first or second day. So everyone will have the chance to look at the work we have done and see if they can accommodate in a way when there is no agreement in some place. So the work is try to reach a consensus in advance, taking into account all what have happened since the first IP4. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Does that help, Reggie?
Well, not really. frankly speaking. Sorry, Judith. No, it's not my intention. I did not mean to keep it in the pocket and keep it secret. Of course, and it is very good that you publish it and well in advance. The only observation I wanted to make that everybody indeed knows well in advance how the non-paper will look like. And they will prepare themselves based on the non-papers, is my expectation. And that once we start, either in plenary or in a smaller setting, with discussing the consolidated text, everybody will lean back, I exaggerate a bit, waiting for you as co-chairs to come with this proposal, which is in the pocket, but which is of course clear for everybody what the content is. So, and again, this is your approach, how you want to continue the work. But also, if you look at other fora and other discussions, if negotiations do not work well, in the end, it are the co-chairs who come suddenly with a co-chair's proposal on the table. And then perhaps it is even take it or leave it. But you have decided to be transparent and open with it, which is very good. But the only risk you take with that is indeed that people will wait for the real negotiations once you as co-chairs have submitted your non-papers. So that is the challenge you have to deal with about the timing when you would like to table them, instead of losing too much time discussing the consolidated text. That was the message I wanted to convey to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reggie. I see Jürgen. Jürgen, you'd like to come in?
Thanks a lot, Kay, and good afternoon, Kay and Judith and all colleagues. And first, I would like to thank you for all your efforts that you are putting into this exercise. It is a very burdensome exercise, and we very much appreciate your input and your efforts to find a solution for the so many open issues that we still have on the table. Now, I wanted to add to what Reggie said, because I think we share the same concern. But maybe to go a step further, I think that what is really needed is that participants need some guidance from your side. Also, when it comes to the preparation for the meeting. So, because the question for everyone, and you referred to small delegations, is certainly what should they prepare? Should they prepare comments and positions on the consolidated document, or on the non-paper, or on both? So I think also for the efficiency of the discussions, it would be very helpful if you prepare non-papers to also provide clear guidance to all participants on how you intend then to manage the discussion. Because otherwise, as Reggie said, either they come with an expectation it will be the non-papers, so I do not have to prepare for the consolidated documents, at least as regards those sections that will be addressed in the non-papers, or they will have trouble to prepare for both, and this may also not be helpful. So therefore, I think that some guidance would be needed and would be helpful to participants. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. And I think there is some there's some people in some chat is there as well. Yeah. Okay, about negotiated text and consolidated. Absolutely. I think the challenge is for us is to look at focused areas. So we're not looking at the whole thing. So there's a lot of the document that won't be covered by any particular non-paper. So that's the first thing. I think on the targets, you certainly will be seeing. It should look familiar, but we're just trying to make clarity on what was the intent here, and is it really speaking the language to the specific communities for which it's intended. On the finance, a lot of it is more about streamlining what is there into a more concise text and taking out some of the ideas which we asked Reggie and Jonah to capture all the ideas in Bucharest, and that was done very effectively. we're now at a stage where those ideas have been mixed into a bit of narrative, a little bit in capacity building. And we're trying to do this sorting of the ideas ahead of time to help people see that clarity of where things fit, so that, because it's quite clear there are some elements that have been incorporated, for example, in the finance narrative, that really are being reflected now in the targets. And it's, do we need them in both places? So that's the question that we're asking ourselves, and we haven't come to any conclusion. So at this stage, what I'd say is that the non-papers will be focused. They will be with a view to say, this could be a way to facilitate consensus. It will be a suggestion in that regard. Your preparation, be it on the consolidated text, hopefully your work in that will come up with a similar output to the non-papers that we're working on. But we may be able to, the two may not look very different in terms of the position and the final position that many participants would like to see. But realistically, the problem that we were facing, and we still cannot effectively address, is that when you look at the consolidated document, there are more brackets than there are words in some places. And the meaning of what we're trying to do has been completely lost. So we, Judith and I, needed to try and understand what was the intent here, to try and work with that. In 2 days, there's no way we could untangle all that. We are also extremely mindful we have a multi-stakeholder community. And so we're trying to at least provide as much upfront information and transparent information to assist the multi-stakeholder community, some of whom don't always actively engage in the types of negotiations that governments do. But I take the point that it potentially could cause confusion, and Judith and I will continue to reflect on the best way we can communicate with you on how these non-papers will be used. At this stage, we haven't completed any non-paper. We're still looking at them, considering them together with the co-facilitators who have provided some comments in one case, and then we're actively working with others in another case. So that's what we're doing, and it's hard for us too to decide how it might best and most simply be useful at IP 4.3. Are there any other comments? Okay. So I don't know if Monica wants to give any closing remarks, or
No, just
anybody
thank
else?
you everyone for your participation. Thank you, Kay and Judith, and look forward to touching base again. And I wish everyone well for the rest of the day or evening.
Okay. But thank you very much, Monica. And yes, we wish you a good summer, and hopefully everyone has a good rest. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you in Bonn.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.